With me now, retired Navy commander and former Pentagon spokesman, J.D. Gordon. J.D., thanks for being here.
Hey, Liz, great to see you, and I was very happy to see Trey get that first question with President-elect Trump today.
Yeah, very exciting at the press conference. He did a good job, as he always does. That's Trey Yingst, of course, our OAN conflict correspondent. JD, this is quite the story. I mean, a good part of President-elect Trump's press conference this morning focused on this story. But let me just start with you with the question of the day. This story has changed so much just in the last 24 hours since it broke. But if that report that was published yesterday, that was published, of course, by Buzzfeed, it alleged that President-elect Trump not only has deep ties to Russia, but that his campaign actually communicated with Russia, and that Russia possesses salacious information on Trump, the sex scandal information. If that's unverifiable, which Buzzfeed states several times, JD, within their own report, if it's unverifiable, isn't this the biggest fake news story we've seen the entire election cycle?
Well, I would say that journalism has hit a new low with Buzzfeed doing that. I have a lot of inside information about what actually happened with the Trump campaign because I was the director of the National Security Advisory Committee during the campaign, and I work with a lot of the people mentioned in that 35-page report, Paul Manafort, Carter Page, and I read it last night, and I know there were a number of things in there that were actually false. I mean, one of the things that the report asserted was that Carter Page was on some official mission to Russia. That's not true. He was there in his own private capacity to speak at a university at a commencement, the new economic school where President Obama spoke in 2009. So a lot of the things in the report were really rumor and innuendo with other spies. So I really wouldn't give it much credence except that BuzzFeed may be held accountable too. If they get sued, we'll see what happens there. But I think BuzzFeed shouldn't have done that. It's a new low, really, for the country.
Right, it is, because there's a difference, I think, between letting the people decide from themselves once you've reported the actual verified facts, saying, these are the facts of the case, we're not going to tell you what to think, you look at the facts and decide for yourself. But when you put something out there that's not even true and say, hey, this could be true, it could be false, we're going to let you decide, that's not journalism. That's never has been journalism, and that never will be journalism. JD, let me go back to one thing you were saying, though. You were part of Trump's national security team during his campaign, his advisory team. I want to ask you specifically about Michael Cohen, because that was the part of this report that BuzzFeed published that I thought could potentially be a smoking gun. If any part of that were true, if Michael Cohen, Trump's attorney, had visited Prague to meet with intermediaries, I think they were called, of the Russian government, that could be a big deal. Did that happen?
Well, Michael Cohen says he's never even been to Prague, and I know Michael pretty well. In 2011, I helped with the Should Trump Run effort, and that's when Mr. Trump was thinking about running for president. I went up to Trump Tower, I met with Michael Cohen. This was in 2011. So I've known Michael for quite a long time. He's a friend of mine, and if he says he hasn't been to Prague, I believe him. I'll take him at his word.
Right, and President-elect Trump said this morning during his press conference that as soon as he heard that allegation, he called Michael Cohen to his office, said, bring me your passport. I want to see exactly where you've been, what time you've been there. He said that not only had Michael Cohen not ever been to Prague, been to Russia, that he perhaps was at a sporting event at the time, and later Trump was told that it was a different Michael Cohen that this intelligence report was referring to. Absolutely, that same word that BuzzFeed used, unverifiable, unverified, full of errors. This report, it's absolutely a disgrace. But JD, one step further here. So that was BuzzFeed. Then we had the CNN story too last night. They were in tandem with BuzzFeed breaking this story. They didn't publish the actual report, to be fair to them, but they did say that Trump was shown this 2-page summary of this 35-page report. But JD, this morning, Trump says he was not shown the report, and an intelligence source involved with this said that the 2-page summary was prepared for the people that were going to give the briefing, that it was never shown to Trump at all.
Well, yeah, the big picture, Liz, here is I think that we've never seen President-elect shake up the establishment like Mr. Trump. He's battled CNN quite often, as you know, so I think they're coming after him. I think the mainstream media, they're coming after him with everything they got, plus more. So I think we're going to see more of this type of reporting, more things like this from BuzzFeed and others. It's unfortunate, but it's not surprising. I think we also should understand that there's sort of a battle going inside within the lifelines of D.C., within the Beltway, about what should the U.S. foreign policy be. And a lot of the foreign policy establishment has been wedded to this idea that Russia is the #1 enemy, and that radical Islam is not. And the Democrats don't even want to say radical Islam. So Mr. Trump is bringing a new approach, saying we should have better relations with Russia, which I agree with, that radical Islam is our top threat, which I agree with. So he's shaking up a lot of things. So this is the blowback he's getting from that movement.
Right, and of course we did hear Vladimir Putin say that this was entirely nonsense. The Kremlin came out and said that this was fake news. I think they actually used that term. Whether or not we believe them, that I will leave to the people's discretion, whether they're trustworthy. But JD, the other suspect part of this, to me, was the timing of this. This has been a report that's circulated in Washington, D.C., to journalists, to these intelligence agencies, as far back as last June. Nobody's reported on it because it's been unsubstantiated. Why release now?
Well, I think the Democrats run the government. The Democrats run the intelligence agencies. So basically, it was smoke them if you got them. I mean, they've only got another week and a half left in power. So if they had something they wanted to embarrass Mr. Trump with, this was the only time to do it.
Okay, last question, JD, before we have to go, and this is kind of an important one. Donald Trump tweeted right after this, actually last night. He said, this is fake news. This is a political witch hunt. Like I mentioned before, Russia has come out and denied this. But there has been, I'll even call it rumors here. They're not even reports. Rumors that this was perhaps a prank started by someone who opposed Donald Trump. Do you expect us ever to be able to figure out where this report came from or where some of these claims in this report came from?
Well, it looks like this former MI6 agent, which was British intelligence, he had his own private company, and he was basically talking to sources and spies in Russia. He lived in Russia, so apparently he knows something about it, but I think it was just rumor and innuendo. It's really a shame that rumor and innuendo could be publicized to the whole world, and it's raw intelligence. We don't really know if it's true or not, but I do know the part about Carter Page, they said, was false because I have personal knowledge about that.
Right, and hopefully this is just another reason for the American people to hold the media accountable, because it's not just gossip, it borders on slander or libel here, and now the mainstream liberal media is taking part of it. It's a shame. JD, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's always great to talk to you, sir.